my name is Keith Lundholm. I'm with New Vintage Automotive, and today I'm going to show you how to set up a pinion bearing setup in an Opel 1.9 rear end. This rear end has already been cleaned up, stripped, and powder coated. And where we're going to start today, I still have the pinion bearing races in this rear housing. So what we're going to do, we're going to pop them out real quick, and then we'll be ready to install our new bearings, our new crush sleeve, and show you how to properly set up the Pinion Pre-load. So where I'll start is with just a hammer and a flat tip screwdriver, and I'll pop these out. Some don't like to use a screwdriver. It was handy. Now keep in mind here, when you do this rear pinion race, there's going to be some shims that come out. These shims are really important that they go back. Unless you are changing your rear gear to a new gear or a posi, you may have to respace this and set this up. I'm not going to go over that in this video. We're just going to go over crushing the crush sleeve and setting up the preload. And hopefully you can see in this video, some of these washers are marked with a little notch. That's to tell you kind of a quick way of telling their thickness. I'll more than likely reuse these, but I do have others if I need to match them up with a micrometer and put new ones in there. This has already been set at the factory for us, so by just replacing the bearings or even using the old bearings, as long as we're using the original rear pumpkin, we don't have to mess with this setting from the factory. The only time we have to do that is if we're changing our gear set, or someone lost the shims, pulled it apart, and didn't keep track of it. Other than that, there should be no reason you have to do that. So just hang on to these shims. I'm going to make sure that they're all out of there, and we'll pull out this front one, and we'll get going. Okay, so I have both races out and the shims, and I wanted to go over some of the tools that you might need to perform this procedure. First is we've got a pinion holder. It's a Kentmore tool 22932, and this is what you're going to use to hold the pinion while you're torquing down the crush sleeve and the pinion nut. You've got to have this. You could make one out of an old torque tube shaft. You could maybe have this machined, but you can pick these up on eBay for cheap enough that I feel even if you got one use out of it, it would probably pay for itself. I show this tool here, which is a 22937, which this is the pinion barrel sleeve puller, and of course you won't see that operation, but you'll see me install it, and this is what you use to properly pull it out. Basically the pinion nut holds the barrel sleeve onto the pinion shaft. This is an installer. This will go over the pinion threads, and it'll install the sleeve onto the shaft without having to hammer down on it. It's just a bearing press. Part number 22938-1. Then you have two of the bearing race installers, 8611-01 and a 7818. And you can see that fits in that one. And you got the bigger one for that one. So with using them and the handle screws into the end there, and then you can use a hammer to knock them back into the pinion housing. Another tool that's a must-have, you might necessarily not have to get this particular one, but this is a torque wrench. And what you got to do is you got to come up with inch pounds. And what I like to use this dial style, and it's a 1/4 inch drive. But my readings go up to 1 to 15 inch pounds. So when you're rotating the shaft, you can see that dial move into what number it needs to be. Like I said, I special ordered this. I got it. It was probably, according to the tag, it's like 2 days old. Not a cheap item to get. That's where sometimes just sending it to someone that has that equipment might be the best thing. Also, I can't stress this enough. Get a factory service manual. I don't care if, it'd be the best $25 to $40 you ever spent if you're going to work on these cars. They're very reliable. I like anywhere from 71 and up, or even to 70. The earlier manuals, the wiring diagrams weren't as good, but this can be a tool. I try not to memorize any kind of specs. I always refer to the manual, because the guy that tries to remember everything is going to be wrong once. So I always refer to the manual. And these part numbers for these tools, or any tools you may need, are listed in the back chapter of the rear end section to the service manual. So with that said, we're going to get started. We're going to, on the next segment, we're going to reinstall the new races. I've got some NOS bearings, and we're going to install those, and then get ready to set up our Pinion Pre-load. Okay, I want to show everybody this. This is a pack of axle shims, part number 8983650. I'm sure that supersedes part number 604171. Anyways, these kits, they come with all kinds of factory shims. I mean, just different thicknesses and sizes and diameters. And they actually make it easy, because they kind of got one size with so many notches on it. So here's like a real small one with 3 notches. Here's some the size I need. Here's one with 4 notches. Here's one with 3 notches. All these are different thicknesses and diameters. I mean, you got some smaller ones that are really thick. But I've actually, here is one that meets the diameter of ours, and it has 0 notches. So I'm willing to bet that is our shim. And also, I found this one here with 1 notch, just like ours. And I will, for grins and giggles, we'll check these with a micrometer just to make sure. But I'm about 90% sure they're going to work. But I'd rather check to make sure before I have to tear this thing all back apart again, because we assumed. So I'll check these out, and then we'll be installing them. Okay, so now we're about ready to knock in the races. Hopefully you can kind of see in there. The most important part, make sure you put your shims back in here. That way you maintain your proper depth. Then I take the new race, make sure it's free and clear of everything. I'm going to set it in there. And with my tool, we'll knock it in there. And our new race is installed. Okay, for this part I wanted to go over the actual components of the pinion. And of course we got the pinion gear. It corresponds with our ring gear. And then you have the inner or rear pinion bearing that's actually pressed on. I'll have to remove that on the press. And then you have what's called your crush sleeve. Here's an original crush sleeve, and it slides over the shaft, and it crushes down. Now, see if I can show this in a better light. To the left is a brand new crush sleeve, and to the right is the used crush sleeve, and you can see it'll crush it down just a little bit. Then you have your front pinion bearing that'll slide on, and then you've got what I was referring to earlier is your pinion barrel sleeve. And this is this is the gear that interacts with your torque tube shaft, and this will go over top, and we'll use a special tool to press this on, so we don't have to use the nut to force it on. That's not recommended. Then we have, of course, just a flat washer that'll go on top, and then we have a nut and a protector cap. Now usually when you pull these off, the protector cap kind of stays in there. It is recommended to get a new nut. A lot of times I'll stake them, or and I'll use red Loctite just to kind of ensure it'll hold. If you can't find a new nut, which you know they're getting to be a hard commodity to find, so wanted to mention those items and kind of show you firsthand. Basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to be squeezing this together, and that crush sleeve acts as a tension against the bearings. It sets it at the proper tension of pull, and we'll be using the torque wrench to configure how much pull it has on while it's rotating. So we'll get into that in later segments of this video.